We're moving on to our next session called Poems Without a Home. It reminds me of a session that we had yesterday with poets from the Northeast, and a particular poet, Nobinita Kadungo, spoke about rootlessness. She's from Shillong, but originally or ancestrally from Bangla. And somewhere I think there's a connecting thread. I'd like to welcome on stage Ayaz, Rasool, Nazki, and Tsering, Wangmo, Dhompa for this next session. I hope you all enjoy it.
Have a seat. Okay. Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody. I was good at numbers. I was called to count the dead. I was good at the loom. I was asked to weave shrouds. I was good at tilling land. I was drafted to dig graves. I come from Kashmir. I continue to count my dead, continue to weave my shrouds, and continue to dig the graves. About 3 decades ago, a sizable population of Kashmir was removed from Kashmir. And for the rest, Kashmir was removed from their lives. And in both cases today, the Kashmir of yesteryears doesn't exist, which we call home, which we would call home. Because home is not only a geographical entity, it's the civilizational continuity. It is the cultural profile. It is the ethos of a place. And it has many shades which you cannot replicate anywhere. As long as the conflict continues, home remains elusive, practically for everybody. On the panel is Tsering. Over to you. You could at least introduce yourself first.
Hello, I'm Tsering Wangmo Dhompa, and I was born in India to Tibetan parents who had left Tibet in 1959. So I was born a refugee in India. And, you know, as Ayaz so beautifully put it, home for Ayaz is a home that is in some ways lost even as he lives on it, right? And for me, home was always probably imminent, but never yet realized, because I was always told that we would go home someday.
So we would go home someday. That remains one of the dreams for people like Tsering. Yesterday we heard excellent translations of Lal the Great. In continuity, I would remind this audience that we have a very popular, in Kashmiri, we have a very popular Masnavi, or a long poem. It's something like Heer in Punjabi. It's known as Gulrez. It was composed somewhere in 18th, 19th century by one Maqbool Shah Kralawari. And it's one of the most popular poetries of Kashmir. Few years ago, during these turmoil years, you know that Gulrez, as any other Masnavi from India or our areas, is basically a mix of the kings, queens, you have demons, you have fairies, you have a love story to go with that, separation, union, intrigue, conspiracies, everything goes into that. And one more important feature of Gulrez, the Masnavi, is that it talks about Kashmir's beauty. There's this strongest point in that Masnavi. So a few years ago, I thought of writing a Masnavi in Gulrez in present context. I called it Gulrez and Now, or the new Gulrez. While I was doing that, a point comes in that Masnavi, my Masnavi now, wherein the poet invokes the spirit of Maqbool Shah, the original poet of Gulrez, and requests him for some input, some sort of guidance as to how I will approach this problem. So here it comes, and then Maqbool Shah appears. And when Maqbool Shah sees the current situation in Kashmir, this is what he says. I'll write in Kashmir, I'll read it in Kashmiri. I know you will all get the feel of what exactly I want to say, or I have said. I should only find it quickly. Just be with me just for another 1 minute or so. This is in response to the poet asking him about his advice and guidance. Maqbool Shah says, Khabar kya go vanan go zant dadvan, harith pyomud baharas maz gulen pan, shapith gomit zaminas nag sari, dezit pyamit ushimit bag sari. Kolan yet treshidade karbalah go, dapan yet ab sori zere chah go. Dapan yet ab sori zere chah go, wuchum bagan gulistanan gumut sur. Wuchum bagan gulistanan gumut sur, piret gambich mainan gulshanat sur. Nawuch katiji, nawuch kukili, nawuch gul, nabuzum az chaman awazi bulbul. Diwan osus be wain, yeti won yemna, sona, wogna, wogun, ya son yemna, sikil shatas andarma nag labha, palanpa tsuri polvun bag labha, khabar tami veeri vari tsai kud gayi. Khabar tami veeri vari tsai kud gayi, khabar tami boini wavish grai kud gayi, khabar tim mushka ambar drai kud kun, khabar tim gul muattar drai kud kun, khabar tas posh nulas kya benit aav, khabar tas zitne zulas kya benit aav, navush shogai navush totai kulis pet, nathovi hari panni pai kulis pet, chital pompir gamit ka shayu ruzit, shamah mazbag gumud hai ruzit. He is describing the entire scene that he sees today in today's Kashmir, and that's my home today. Tsering, please.
Men are men because we know. The men in my family hope to return to a country they left in their youth. They say home and point away from the cement rooms they have built. At home, they say, the grass was tall, the milk was sweet. At home, there was no need for sugar. Adhering to mindfulness, we say nothing. Mother ate meat. Mother watched spiders encamp in her domain. Nothing is not what it seems. We take the animals we are to eat seriously. After all, a death is involved. The 7 days of our week parted from each other like warring cousins. In the family tree, the names of women are missing. In the family tree, the low branches served well as clothesline and weapon. Once a week, we question whether our country will be free. we are not warriors. We know a working bowel is proof of a healthy life. We know people who do not speak our dialect are sitting at a table. With pen and paper, they will map our future. Back to you.
Want me to continue?
Yeah.
I write in 3 languages. Kashmiri is my mother tongue. Urdu is the language of our culture. And I write in English too. Recently I have come out with a volume. In fact, I have, mere pitare mein bahut kuch hai. In fact, this is a book that has just been published, just not even released yet. This is a selection of my Urdu poetry done by some other people, and with an introduction by Amjad Islam Amjad from Pakistan, and comments from Zafar Iqbal and other greats, you know. If you allow me, I would read just one poem from it, which again perhaps talks about my home. Since we want to keep the discussion on the home and concept of home. Again, this is today's home. And this is Urdu, most of us will understand. And Ashok Bajpai being in the audience gives me a goose bumps also. I don't know how he will react to it. खौफ की वादी में बाकी अब कोई सरहद नहीं. खौफ की वादी में बाकी अब कोई सरहद नहीं. There are no red lines in the valley of fear today. खौफ की वादी में बाकी अब कोई सरहद नहीं. चार दीवारी की इज्जत और चादर का लिहाज. चार दीवारी की इज्जत और चादर का लिहाज. जिस्मो जां की हुर्मतें, जिस्मो जां की हुर्मतें, नंगो नामूसो हया, उम्र, शोहरत, इज्जो जा, मर्तबा. उम्र, शोहरत, इज्जो जा, मर्तबा, सब अलामातो अकायद, मस्जिदें और खानका. जिंदगानी, मौत, रंजो अलम, मौजे इन बिसात, जुल्म की आंधी से यकसां हो गए. जुल्म की आंधी से यकसां हो गए. खौफ की वादी में बाकी अब कोई सरहद नहीं, अब कोई भी हद नहीं.
This is Ayaz's latest book, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, the latest book, and it's Songs of Light in English. And I was reading it last night and also the first thing this morning, and I was really struck by the ways in which, the words home and place don't feature in here. But what it does so powerfully is that it, in some ways, it shows what has become of home and place. And I felt like reading it that home, in some ways, in this book, is a kind of a permanent disability to some extent, right? And also home is really a place of absences, of disappearances, of silence, of so many questions but no answers, right? It's a place where the past is locked. There is no moving on because there's only uncertainty and violence to move towards, right? So it was a very powerful, I think, depiction of home where, given all of this, right, remembering and forgetting is a very difficult exercise.
So gracious of you, so great of you that you have gone through it in such great detail. If you allow me, I will read just one poem from here. It's known as Random Thoughts. I don't know, it's working? Hello. Random Thoughts. Let us meet somewhere. Let us meet somewhere. It has been ages since we sat on the steps of the ghat and watched boats. Let's meet somewhere. It has been ages since we sat on the steps of the ghat and watched boats ferry across loads of men, women and children, all on their way to somewhere. If we make it today to the same ghat, let us inquire from the waves and ripples on the water about all those men, women, and children who had crossed the span. What happened then? Who met home and who came home? It has been ages. Generations have come and generations have gone. 1,000 suns have risen and sunk into the water in front of me. A lonely, dull moon hangs there outside my window. The chill in the air cuts a sinew. I am frozen to the core. My friend has sent me a note. My friend has sent me a note on Facebook in an alien tongue, which I can't read. People are the same, making families, raising children, building homes, opening accounts in the nearest banks. My papers lie on the table, the tax return, the unpaid bills, the medical insurance, and my will, yet unwritten. Thank you.
I'm glad you read that poem, because what I was thinking also in talking and thinking about home is that for me, as a young child growing up in India without documentation, as a refugee, I associated home also with citizenship, right? Home to me meant having citizenship, being a citizen, acquiring a kind of belonging, right? But as I've grown older, and moved around and had many different forms of documentation, I also realized that citizenship is really not the same as belonging.
Yes.
And there are so many inequalities.
Yes, that's a very
right?
important point. That's a very important point.
And having become a citizen of the US, I have realized the inequalities of the very citizenship too, right? And I think yesterday Shanab Hussain was also talking about that. So the problems of citizenship, I think, are things that we don't talk about often, right? I'll read a little bit from my new poem, which is called Home, a Transitive.
Please.
And it has to do more with nation and perhaps belonging. When we build a nation, we are permanently old and always new. If story is a wavelength, we could pick a beginning, follow intention to the border, and then let custom reign. Mother died a refugee. She thought the status was a promise of return. She had a version of nation under the bed. Never mind that her village took a new name. The jar of water from her childhood's river, 10 stones, and 5 twigs were clues that home was transitive. The invasion on body holds only the heart hostage. Armies of the past unfurl the flag of love. Soon you will fall. As the fruits swell, the branches sag with orange sweetness. I miss you, orange, much. I want time to return to the moment before you got off the bus and walked towards the beginning of the story. If you'd been 10 minutes late, if geography was inconsequential to the struggle of belonging, there would be no reason to allude to the mood of patriarchy. Bring a different set of ears or measuring system, something that communicates the loss that all the words along the border are fiction. Bring a heart that barters, that is not afraid to split. And heart muscles begin their dirge during a heart attack. And oxidization is linked to regeneration, which is also to say words build their own web within a system. And she said, all disease starts in the colon. She knows where oxygen is stored in the building. She knows who needs it most. Sometimes it is given to the one who will heal quickest. In time, new tissue granulates the wound, pattern of tiny cells visible. The edges of a wound shrink over time around a scar, that, like maps, tell an incomplete story. The memory of the old country forgotten by books in schools. Mothers remember the bodies they buried. Life after death and death in every breath. Belonging, a verb and a strip of hope. I fed with orchids on sale and recipes brought from a country I now hover over in virtual maps. I twist time as a child tightens the cap of a bottle, the right direction a consequence of loss, the left the vocabulary of departure. I'm walking backwards, hoping to reverse, to unsee, to leave something else as trails, to find a way forward. Thank you.
I have seen him raising 5-minute notice. I don't know whether we should read some more.
I think you should read some.
Okay. This poem is titled Tonight. Tonight I am my own friend, come to see me after a long time. Tonight I am my own friend, come to see me after a long time. Together we shall sit on the terrace in the moonlit night, drink to the stars up in the sky, recollect the old childhood friends, and re-say all those boyish jokes and laugh our hearts out. Tonight, we shall hand in hand descend the meadow and ascend the hill, bask in the sun and laze around on the turf of past, collect pebbles and toss them up, run after the rabbits in the woods, make a snare with a strand of horse's hair, and lay a trap for little birds. Tonight, my bosom friend and I shall see each other in the mirror of time, leafing through the dusty books, reading aloud the poems, and singing the songs that we never wrote. Thank you. You want to say something?
No. I would like to talk about Ayaz's work a little bit in that,
that's great.
Yeah, in sort of this book where place is full of silences and disappearances. It seems like only poetry is the thing that visits, right? Poetry is the thing that moves, that creates, that is in some ways a kind of a witness. And I think that's something that a lot of writers have spoken about the past 2 days too, right? The task of poetry and memory.
That's so great of you. And I think we could end this session with the hope and a prayer that all such poems, all such poetry actually goes home. And there is a home for, we have not to have a session for poems without a home. Let us all pray and work towards that. Thank you very much. It has been so nice. Huh?
Well, thank you, Ayaz and Tsering. Very moving poetry. And I think the call to action at the end of the session is to let us give poetry home. Each poem, let us take them home with us. And to reiterate, the Bengaluru Poetry Festival is a platform which makes sure that every poem finds its way home.